I like just quoting you from your book because you have a beautiful like passage in the conclusion where you quote Tony Blair, where he said in 1999, NATO's success in Kosovo will be the biggest deterrent to tyrants the world over and the biggest rallying call for democracy. That is why, whatever it takes, we must succeed, and the policy of brutal savagery that is ethnic cleansing must fail and be seen to fail. Says Blair in 1999. It's so reminiscent to what we are hearing about Ukraine, isn't it? Like the ring to it, the tone. Can you speak to
That's
this?
right. No, that's right. And of course, what they did in 1999 was like, obviously completely illegal. It had the exact opposite effect of what they wanted. It was supposed to be humanitarian, but of course, it was absolutely destructive and devastating. Supposedly, they were trying to prevent war crimes. Then, according to the ICTY, that only increased war crimes. And then, of course, the flood of refugees, which supposedly provoked the bombing, the flood of refugees, of course, increased exponentially as a result of the bombing. But because Serbia was relatively easy to defeat, NATO and Tony Blair, they went in for a lot of self-congratulation. Well, fantastic, we did this. We won. We defeated. Not only did you win, you were like a boxer, you won the fight, but you get to feel that you're the good guy. And then that, of course, that of course was the hubris that led to the onslaught against Afghanistan. But of course, Iraq really just a little more than 2 years later, because they thought, well, we're obviously the good guys. It's going to be pretty easy to defeat a much weakened Iraq. Iraq had already been, after more than 10 years of sanctions, and then we'll get to have another opportunity to congratulate ourselves. We defeated the tyrant Saddam Hussein, and everything else. But then, just as you say, what happens when this war goes wrong is you have, within a few years, a quick revision. Yeah, that was a mistake. It was probably, we shouldn't have done that. And so you think, what's the consensus now? Yeah, we probably should have given that one a miss. But nobody was saying it at the time. They said it because, hey, we've got to go in. We've got to go into Iraq. The people who were against the Iraq war were in a very small minority.
Although these people are still proud of what they did, even if they say Iraq was a mess, they still say it's good that Saddam Hussein is gone and we did, overall the good outcome was achieved, even though the instruments were messy. And if I ask these people who say like you cannot attack a sovereign nation, and I tell them, well, you attacked Iraq, didn't you? And it's like, oh, that's not the same. You cannot compare it. One is a dictatorship, the other one is a blooming democracy. They don't. I mean, and I tell them, look, but international law doesn't care about the political system. Then they usually reply, incomparable. He was about to kill millions in his own country of 5 million.
That's right. Well, that's exactly right. And, those were the justifications that were being made at the time, during the arguments about the invasion of Iraq. And we say, hey, look, I was arguing, well, look, this is a sovereign nation. I mean, you look at the UN Charter. There's nothing in the UN Charter that says that non-democracies are, it's open season on them. You can attack a country that if you don't like its form of government. There's nothing in the UN Charter. It says all states, irrespective of their domestic arrangements. But then these people who make these fanciful extrapolations of international law, just as I was saying about the Bad Inter and then the International Criminal Tribunal for former Yugoslavia, they make this thing. Yeah, but the way international law has evolved is that certain states don't really have legitimacy. So because they're not democratic, because they don't really protect their own people, they don't have immunity from attack by others. And that was the kind of the germ of this whole idea of the responsibility to protect, that, you can actually arbitrarily decide that certain states don't protect their populations. And so others can come in and bomb and overthrow or do whatever they want to do. So they said that was an argument made about Iraq. And you're right, there are people who still justify the Iraq war. Well, at least we got rid of Saddam Hussein. But because so many Americans died, and it was clearly became very unpopular in the United States, that it's still a kind of an embarrassment. And it was based on lies. I mean, you can't get around the lies that were spread about the weapons of mass destruction. So it's kind of become an embarrassment. So people just don't really want to talk about it very much. So that's same with Vietnam. Vietnam was extremely popular in the early days. Then when it became gradually unpopular and the war didn't seem to be coming to any kind of conclusion, then America ended it, and then it seems everybody was against it from the beginning. It's like you're hard put to find anyone at all who was for it. Oh yeah, of course I was against Vietnam. So that's always the way these things work. If it succeeds, or at least succeeds in those terms, as they think Yugoslavia succeeded, because they kind of gave in, not on everything, but at least they gave in after the 11 weeks of bombing. Then they congratulate themselves and go on talking about what a fantastic intervention this was. If it doesn't, then they kind of say, yeah, it just didn't really work. Wrong war at the wrong place at the wrong time. Better luck next time. So that I think that's been the view of case of Iraq, and of course before that Vietnam, and to a certain extent Libya as well.
Yeah, and when it didn't end well, and especially if you have to exit, then you put bone-crushing sanctions as well, just to strangulate whatever is left of the mess that you created. And Afghanistan is currently there, right? But anyhow,
it's true of Vietnam as well. United States,
and Cuba,
as part of the Paris Peace Accord, the United States was promised enormous amount of aid to Vietnam to help rebuild the country. Not one penny. The United States didn't come up with a single penny to Vietnam after the Paris Peace Accord. So they always. There was the sanctions didn't apply, but you're absolutely, the sanctions remain in place until there's a regime change that the West desires.
And for some reason, the West can understand how it is that these savage nations like Vietnam and India and so on do not side with them when it comes to approaching Russia and China. It's like it's unfathomable. Why? Why would that be?